Tom Clark's 6M podcast is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show. Hey, what is up? Welcome to Tom Clark's 6M podcast. I'm your host, Tom Clark, and in this episode I'm joined by co-host Phil Lindsey. From the world of Hollywood comes a film from one of the most popular comedy franchises of all time, with a loving husband and father taking his family on a whirlwind trip to a city that threatens to bankrupt him, take his wife away thanks to a music legend, and corrupt his kids who otherwise would be right by his side. We're talking about Vegas Vacation. Vegas Vacation was directed by Stephen Kessler from a screenplay by Alicia Bell and was released on February 14, 1997. It was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. The film is the fourth installment of National Lampoon's Vacation series, which originally began in 1983. The premise of the franchise is that the main characters go on a family vacation that typically involves slapstick comedy and nonsensical situations as they try to finish their trip in one piece. Vegas Vacation follows the exploits of the Griswold family, who are led by the patriarch Clark Griswold. Clark's primary motivation in every film is to treat his family to a holiday or a vacation that they'll never forget, but in doing so, he typically sabotages the event in some ridiculous way. Despite the family's objections, Clark insists on a trip to Las Vegas, where he wants to renew his wedding vows. But after arriving in Sin City, Clark instantly falls into a terrible losing streak in the casinos. As he tries to turn his luck around, Clark's wife Ellen becomes the center of attention for Vegas icon Wayne Newton, who wines and dines her in the film. Clark's kids, Russ and Audrey, each stumble into their own situations as well, as Russ develops a whole new persona thanks to a fake ID card. He becomes a smooth-talking Vegas casino high roller who spends his time with his own entourage. Audrey discovers her wild side thanks to Clark's cousin Eddie, who the Griswolds visit during the film. Eddie's daughter Vicky, an exotic dancer in a nightclub, spends her time with Audrey and the two become fast friends. But as Clark's gambling addiction spins out of control, he realizes that he must fight to save his family and bring them back together despite each one's desire to go their separate ways. Vegas Vacation was widely panned by film critics who did not feel the film lived up to the standards set by the other installments in the Vacation franchise. It made $36 million on a budget of $25 million and was not considered a success. But despite its poor reception, Vegas Vacation continues to be a cult favorite of many fans who just can't get enough of the Griswold family's antics on the big screen. And that's the lowdown on Vegas Vacation. We talk quite a bit on the 6M about series, like a series of films, a set of films, whether it's a trilogy or it's 4 films or possibly even more. And we're getting into Star Wars territory. We're getting, of course, into Marvel Comics, the MCU territory. We're getting into the territory of, geek culture, pop culture, sci-fi, comic book stuff. But there's other movies that fit the bill too. Godfather sequels. I mean, there's other things. It's not just reserved for fanboy type of material. The idea of series and, again, like a set of films and multiple chapters. I mean, that's a thing. And guess what, kids? It's probably always going to be a thing. It's probably never going away ever. It's the style of story that we tell these days. A lot of times, believe it or not, you can't get an entire story within 2.5 hours, especially if you're world building, universe building, or whatever. It does take multiple films over multiple years to get the job done. Now, some would argue with that and say, well, I disagree. By the third movie, the whole series is garbage. But guess what? Everything's subjective, and we all know that's true. I say all that to say this. In terms of a series of comedy films, and we're going to get there here today, trust me. But we're talking about the National Lampoon's Vacation series. Couple of poor chapters, in my opinion. Maybe we'll touch on it here today. The film that we're covering today, in some regard, is a poor chapter. I would submit it's not my favorite, but I submit that I enjoy this film and that I do not think it's the worst one of the bunch. I know what I think the worst one of the bunch is. So as we get cranking here today, Phil, I spoke before about Vegas Vacation off mic, and I forget to what degree we were talking about it, but it's one of those things where one of us will mention something and it'll get the wheels turning in my head and I'll be like, why don't we just do that? So that's how we ended up here today with this show. You told me then, again off mic, that Vegas Vacation is one of your favorite movies. As we kick this show off today, tell me why. Give me your reasons why Vegas Vacation is one of your favorite. Do we say favorite films or favorite comedies, or is it both?
It's definitely one of my favorite comedies. It's just one of those movies. I quote it a lot. I reference it a lot. I don't know why. It's just one of those guilty pleasures for me. I've seen it so many times that I just can't help it. And I believe it came up because I was heading to Vegas over the weekend for Double or Nothing, and I think I made some kind of reference to it probably, and that's how we started talking about it.
That's got to be it. I don't know why I didn't even think about why it came up. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I watched it yesterday for the first time in a long time, and today rewatching some of it again. I don't know if I think this thing holds up or not, but let's go ahead and get into this thing here. What is it about this for you? Is there anything? And again, Phil, everything's subjective, right? But let's try to match them up. Um, in your opinion, what is the best chapter of the Vacation series? Do you think it's this one?
It's probably the original Vacation. Just 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 everything about the original, the Wally World stuff, like the original girl in a hot rod driving by. There's just so many great things about that movie. It's just hilarious. Of course, Christmas Vacation is close second because it's such a yearly routine. I'm pretty sure I watch Christmas Vacation every year during Christmas season. Um, yeah, but I'm gonna go with the original Vacation as my favorite.
I'm going to flip the script on you. I'm going to go with Christmas Vacation as my favorite one. And I do watch that every year for sure, multiple times actually, not just once. And we've done that. It's in the archive, kids. Go check it out. It's actually a watch along done with myself and Troy Grant. It's hilarious, if I do say so myself. It's really good. We've not done the original. I'll be honest with you, dude. I've not watched the original in a long time, and plus, the original has John Candy as well, the great John Candy. How does the first one hold up? By the way, when was the last time you saw it?
I haven't seen it in a long time, but there's just so many great things. Like I always will quote, "Where did you say you wanted to go, son? Wally World, Dad. Wally World, Dad. Wally World." Every time, that cracks me up every
Right.
time. Yeah, it's just so many funny things about that movie. Um, yeah, but it's not. I would not say that. Even I know you were saying we'll get into which ones are the worst. I don't think Vegas Vacation is anywhere near close to worst. I think that Vacation reboot is
Thank
pretty
you.
bad. It's not it's it's just not good.
Yeah, Ed Helms. I love me some Ed Helms. He's a funny guy, but that movie's not doing it for me at all.
Yeah, the reboot's not very good. But I mean, of the ones with the original cast, I don't think Vegas Vacation's the worst one.
Yeah, dude, I agree with that. It's not getting a lot. It never got a lot of love from critics. I don't know if I would describe it as a cult favorite. I guess it's possible you could
Yeah,
go there. I don't know. Would you look at it in those terms, maybe, or no? You think it's that strong?
I'm sure if you polled somewhere, there is a probably strong following somewhere for Vegas Vacation, but it definitely got panned by
Yeah.
critics.
Um, yeah. There's a lot to get into, and you wouldn't think there would be for this film or whatever, but I mean, there really is a lot to get into here. Um, let's talk about the cast. And of course, we've got this far into the show, didn't even mention the Griswold family, who of course are the stars of the show. The great Chevy Chase, one of the best all-time physical comics, I think that I mean of his generation for sure. This guy had like back problems and knee problems from all the pratfalls on SNL when he was a regular on the cast or in the cast. Willing to throw himself onto the floor like a pro wrestler whenever need be, just to get a bit over, which he did multiple times over the years. Um, he is he's the excellent combination, the perfect mix of lovable, old fashioned, but dim witted, dumb as a rock, clumsy, oafish. I think it helps that he's kind of in a bigger body. If he were 5'5" and 100 pounds, I don't know if it would be quite as funny. But the fact that he in the beginning of this movie, he comes in, let's forget the fact he almost kills people going through the neighborhood, and it's utterly ridiculous opening sequence. When he comes in, he knocks things off the table with his briefcase and doesn't even acknowledge it. The best bit about comedy, for this type of comedy, never acknowledge what you did. You know what I mean? It's that much funnier. What about Chevy Chase as Clark
It's
Griswold, man?
it's so many small things that he does. They're just so funny. Like you said, the opening sequence. I don't care how many times I've seen this movie of him singing "Good Vibrations" in the car, and he's like almost crashing the car and several times. It's just
Yeah.
hilarious, man. Um, and like you said, there's so many things that he just does so many outlandish things, and he just is like, don't pay any attention to that. Like when he's giving the whole conversation about what he does, and he works in preservatives,
Yeah.
and he's like, man, he was like, tells the kids how old the cookies were or how old the milk is. He just like completely no sells it. It's so funny.
Yeah, he's fine. He says the cookies are 8 years old and the milk's 6 years old or 4 years old, whatever it is. That's so good. Let's talk about the house before we go any farther. It looks like the same house, but is this the same house from Christmas Vacation? Am I crazy?
It looks the same. I have to look at both show movies back to get back. But it does look the same. And I mean, just the fact that the Griswolds are from Chicago always makes it funny to me. One of the things I always chuckle at from Chicago, not Chicago, but Christmas Vacation is him wearing that old school Bears hat. It's just so iconic when he's wearing a Bears hat when he's putting the lights up.
Oh, for sure. And plus, to be fair, a lot of that movie takes place at night. It seems to be anyway. So I guess maybe that's what's throwing me. I immediately thought of the neighbors when he pulled into the driveway in the beginning of the movie, and I thought, wonder if the neighbors that they hated finally gave up and sold their house. I would imagine they probably did.
uh, wasn't his neighbor Julia Louis
It,
Dreyfus and the other guy? I can't remember the
it
other guy's
was
name.
it was her, and I'm blanking on his name as well. Yeah, it definitely was. But yeah, you would think that they didn't stick around after the events of Christmas Vacation. That would cause me to want to
Yeah,
sell as well.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's I don't know, man. I don't want to get too hung up on the aesthetics of this thing. I don't know how much we believe continuity to be held in a series of comedy films. But anyway, that
I
was
mean,
something
look,
I bumped into right away.
there's a different son and daughter every movie. So I think if you're looking for continuity in these things, you're missing it.
I'm very glad you brought that up because there is a different set of kids in every movie, isn't there? Isn't that how it's played, or am I crazy? Did they ever duplicate the sister or the brother?
There's a different Russ in every movie, I think, because I think there's three different Russes. Because of course the original Russ in the original Vacation is the same kid from Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
I think you're right.
then there's another Russ in European Vacation because that guy is taller.
Very true. Very true.
And and then the Russ in this movie, of course, is the same guy from That Thing You Do.
Yep. TB player played by Ethan Embry.
Yeah,
Yeah. And of course, Johnny Galecki is Russ from Christmas Vacation. Of course, grows up to be on Big Bang Theory. There
that's
you
right. So right there, that's three different Russes, right?
go. Yes. And there's mystery kids springing up here in this movie, Phil, and we'll get there. Kids that we've never seen
Yeah,
before, and I'd forgotten that.
yeah. Matter of fact, I miscounted. We just counted out four Russes. There's four different
Wow.
Russes.
Yeah. Um,
And I'm pretty sure there's a different girl that plays Aubrey as well. Like they're not the same.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. So, all right. So if we're talking about the cast, and we'll get to the kids here in just a second. Beverly D'Angelo, as Clark's wife, Ellen. Ellen is a lot like Clark, dude. Except she may be a little smarter than Clark, but not by much, because she's got that sort of faraway look in her eyes sometimes. But she's lovable, and she overlooks Clark's imperfections and the silliness of the moment and stuff that like the rest of us would go, "What just happened?" But she just goes along with it and plays along. Um, Dude, she's ditzy, she's dense when she needs to be. But to be fair, Beverly D'Angelo in her prime was a very attractive woman, and was a commodity in Hollywood, if I'm not mistaken. So to see her end up in a comedy role, and I just think she does such a good job. But talk about her and Chevy Chase. I mean, dude, I feel like they had chemistry basically in every movie. They were believable as a couple to me. You think?
Yes. I think what makes Ellen great is that Ellen fits the archetype of all of the sitcom wives and all the cartoon wives that we saw perfectly, because there's always this archetype of, even from the Flintstones up, of having this oafish husband that somehow is with this hot wife that is out of his league. It's kind of the same thing with Jackie Gleason in Honeymooners, where his wife seems like, it's kind of like, what are you doing with this guy? What are you doing with this oaf? Um, and it's kind of like, it's just a revolving thing with sitcoms for a long time, where like the wife is just like, what are you doing with this guy? And it's the same thing here. It's like, okay, what are you doing with Clark? How did Clark pull
No
this off?
kidding.
um, and I think that dynamic is on full display here with the stuff of her feeling unappreciated, and it just plays into the dynamic so well. And then, like you said, she at times can be very dense and like go for things that are like, why would you think that's smart? And like there's naivety to her that is just really funny as well. Like the fact that she like seemingly didn't know that Wayne Newton was hitting on her for the first half of the movie. It's like, well, of course, what do you mean? And she's just looking like, no, it's just Wayne Newton. Like, nah.
I was going to wait to get to Wayne, but I want to get to him now. Give Wayne Newton an Oscar for this movie because I'm not kidding. Oh my God. Like, it didn't feel like he had a script. It didn't feel like he rehearsed. Dude, there's a reason this guy had such a massive career in Vegas and sold out so many shows and made so much money. Dude, he is naturally charismatic. I mean, dude, you can tell by the way he talks, by the way he carries himself, full of confidence, doesn't mind being the butt of the joke. He showed up in those scenes with the dress suit but no shirt. That's freaking great, man. Like, I cracked up over this guy. Dude, he is, I don't want to spend all day on Wayne Newton. I can, but I won't. But my God, man, just I loved it. I loved it. It's like, look, just go in there and be ridiculous. And he totally nailed it. I loved it, man.
No, Wayne was actually very funny in this movie. That stuff that is just not even supposed to be that funny was just really, really funny. Him meeting Clark and then giving him the strong handshake, and he's just kind of looking at him with a straight face, like, what?
Right. Oh, so good. And he um not for nothing, but you know, the scenes that you said where it's not maybe not supposed to be funny, but it is anyway. The scene where he makes pasta for her and he sits a little too close on the couch right beside her, where she basically, they're like hitting elbows when she's trying to eat, and she's trying to eat way too much with her fork and the pasta's too long and hasn't been cut. It's just little stuff like that that really cracked me up. Dude, his moments in the film for me were some of the best moments. I just thought it was natural comedy, dude.
Yeah. The thing I really enjoy about Vegas Vacation, and I think Wayne is kind of like a microcosm of it, is that they perfectly capture um just the outlandishness of Vegas, because it's just like only in Vegas would certain things like that happen. And it's just like, yeah, it might seem outlandish, like you make this Vegas trip and Wayne is hitting on your wife, but Wayne, seriously, Vegas sometimes feels like a place where just anything can happen.
Yeah, like it's not unimaginable that you would meet and run into Wayne Newton and he'd have a crush on you. It's not impossible. Like, he still has to go to dinner too. I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
yeah, it's just like, 'cause it's just that kind of world where you can have things like celebrities or people with this like vast amount of money, you know, commingled in places with somebody like Eddie, who is like, he's a
Yeah,
nobody. That's just kind of the ridiculousness of Vegas. Like you could just see any random person in the casino, or anybody just like randomly walking up the strip.
that's cool. I mean, I'm sure you'd probably get used to that if you live there after a while. But at first, it'd be like, oh my God, there's so and so. That would be kind of cool. Um, let's talk about the kids. We mentioned Ethan Embry as Russ. Russ, one of my favorite jokes in any movie ever is the ongoing Russ from Clark, where he says it and Russ is always right there. Like, Why is that bit so funny? It's always funny to me, man. I love it.
I don't know, but it is a hilarious running gag.
Um,
Right here, Dad.
yeah. Oh, yeah. So good. Ethan Embry as Russ in this movie, previously portrayed by Anthony Michael Hall. We know him. Jason Lively and Johnny Galecki, as we said. Marisol Nichols is Audrey in this film. She was previously portrayed by Dana Barron, Dana Hill, two Danas. What's chances? And of course, Juliette Lewis. So yes, 4 different on each. That's a running joke too. And plus, you can't say that they're keeping the kids young. They're growing the kids up as the movies go on, which is, I don't know. I wonder why there was never an effort made to get the same kids. I wonder if it's almost like the continuity. They were trying to play continuity for some weird reason.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Here's a quiz for you. Who's the best Russ and the best Audrey?
That is
That's tough.
I'm gonna go with Russ from. Man, that's tough. I'm gonna go with Russ from the original Vacation. Maybe because I've watched that one so many times, so I just have Anthony Hall stuck in my brain every time I think of Russ. But I'm tempted to say this Russ as well because Russ from Vegas Vacation is hilarious. Yeah. Just his whole side story in this movie is just hilarious. And I mean it's very similar to his side story in European Vacation, where Russ is a very simple character to understand. He's a kid that wants to get laid. He just wants to be out and and be a part of the action. But boy, he is really, really funny in this movie, man. But I'm gonna go with Anthony Michael
Hall. It's a tough one for me, man. I kind of feel like Ethan Embry is the best version of who would actually be Clark's son, because you could always say, all right, the kids are a little bit more clued in, which Anthony Michael Hall is a little bit more clued in. Johnny Galecki, a little bit more of a wisecracker. But Ethan Embry's kind of like, yeah, no, this is what Clark's kid would be.
Tom Clark's 6M podcast is sponsored in part by Radius Law Group. Every day, Radius helps individuals, families, small businesses, and nonprofit organizations throughout North Carolina, Florida, and Pennsylvania resolve their legal issues by providing effective legal counsel in the areas of estate planning, as well as elder law and Medicaid. Radius Law holds the radical belief that working with a lawyer can indeed be enjoyable. So give them a call at 1-800-519-5667 for more information and tell them that Tom Clark's 6M podcast sent you.
He's kind of tall. He's a little innocent in the face, but he's a little dim-witted. But he runs into weird luck out of the blue. That's kind of, to me, what Clark would be as a young man. Like, I think they nailed it.
It's true. It is true. I am very tempted to say this is the best. This is the best Russ because he's just so funny in this movie.
He's got great lines. Nick Papagiorgio. I'm just saying.
The Nick Papagiorgio stuff is legitimately some of the funniest stuff about this movie. And matter of fact, I reference Papagiorgio the most out of anything. Just him in that pool, just going, "Am I right? Huh? Am I right? Am I right?" Or him going, "Who would have thought? My sister's got the legs of a thoroughbred. Am I right? Am I right?" And he's doing it to his dad. He's like, "Shut up, bro."
Oh man. So let's get to the rest of this. I'm debating on how much time to spend on Sir Randy Quaid. Not really a Knight of the British Empire, but he. It's funny if you Wikipedia him, his page is not that long, and the dude had. I mean, you look at his list of credits; it's extensive. Dude. He started in 1971, and his last role was in 2018. Like, dude, that's an amazing for anyone to work in Hollywood more than 5 years and earn a living. Are you kidding? I mean, that's impressive. But what's keeping this page a little lean is, what happened to him later in life, or what he did later in life, I should say. We don't spend a lot of time on that, but holy God. And who he supports in politics. I'm not working. It's not working for me either. Boy. So, boy. Cousin Eddie turned out to be an idiot after all.
I mean, look, he is great as the comedic timing guy. He's great as the the fall guy to come in and be the butt of jokes in movies he's in. I mean, I cannot imagine Independence Day without him. And it's kind of the same thing with the first few Vacation movies, where the Vacation franchise isn't the same without Cousin Eddie.
True.
And this movie is the same way. Like, all the stuff with Clark and his legitimate gambling problem, and Eddie just kind of walking around confused by it, like, where we going now? It's just so funny, man. It's just the stuff out there at his house where he's like, yeah, gonna throw some chicken on the grill, and just throws raw chicken onto a rock. It's just so funny. I'm sorry, it is hilarious.
And you know what I bumped into was not the chicken on the hot rock, and not just the hot rock, but because it was nuclear testing done out there, which obviously everything's irradiated. That's not what I bumped into the fact that he held raw chicken with his hands. Like, of all the things to have a problem with, I was like, oh my God, he had the chicken raw with his hands. Like, oh.
We got to go. I don't know. I've never seen Russ have a reaction like that to chicken.
Then, of course, he starts punching him in the stomach like he's playing with him. And you're like, dude, stop. Oh, man. Everyone's got a Cousin Eddie in their family. You may not want to talk about him, but you got one. We all do. And it's just the degree of how Eddie is the Cousin Eddie. Yeah. So another believable part of the family is Cousin Eddie, I think. He may be more believable than the bunch of them, because he's so off the cuff, man.
Well, I mean, the thing is, his dynamic with Clark is so great, because if you have your shit together, there's always that one person, there's that one family member that doesn't have his stuff together. And he's always the one that shows up and he's like, man, got $50 I can borrow? Or, hey, got $20 I can borrow? And there's Eddie. That's the guy. So, yeah, it's definitely believable.
Oh, man. Good call. Good call. He so is. He's the guy that you can believe, the black sheep of the family, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, listen, just forget how he kind of really became Cousin Eddie in real life. He's great in this. He really is great in this. And you're right. Independence Day is not Independence Day without him. Major League 2 is not Major League 2 without him. He's had some memorable roles over the years. He just went way out of left field with, life choices, which unfortunately that's what people are going to remember quite a bit, is what you did after the career is over.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. He just has such great chemistry in this movie with Chevy Chase, and I just think their dynamic in character is so good that Eddie is such a screw up, but in the same way he is kind of in awe of the Griswolds and how they have it together. But when you really look at Clark under the surface of him, having a nice home and a nice family, it's like, Clark's kind of a screw up as well. And so I think that's why he's so confused when Clark is screwing up in Vegas, because it's like, what are you doing, dude? Because he's like, I'm supposed to be the screw up in this movie. Like, what are you doing?
And then the fact that Cousin Eddie gives him money. First of all, how does Eddie have money? And second, he gives him money. You're like, is he really handing him money? Like, he's giving money to somebody?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just the fact that their dynamic was flipped in this movie in some ways is just so interesting to me, and it makes for some very funny scenes. That casino that they go to, it's just so funny. I'm sorry.
Guess which hand?
Guess which hand? He's cheating. It's in that hand. I saw him, Eddie.
Guess what number? Guess the number. Oh my God.
Pick a number, man. Oh my God. Yeah, that whole scene is hilarious.
That's the best kind of I hope to God there's a corner of Vegas with those games actually there. And I'll bet you there is. I'll bet you, just out of dedication to the film, someone has set those games up in Vegas somewhere, because that's great. Love it. Wallace Shawn. You won't know his name, kids, but you'll know him as a blackjack dealer. You'll also know him from The Princess Bride and the voice of Rex in Toy Story. He's one of those guys you're like, Wallace who? Then you see him, you're like, oh, I know that guy. Here's what I'll say about Wallace Shawn here, Phil. I don't think they gave him enough great lines. Like, he's funny, but I almost wish that he had had a little bit, not more scenes, but the scenes he was in, for me, felt just a little bit lean. What did you think of him in this movie?
just such a great character actor. I mean, I don't care what I've seen him in. He's funny. The brief cameos he's had in stuff like Cosby Show and like you said, Princess Bride and all those things. He's always funny. Um, One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when he's he's dealing out to him and Clark is sitting there waiting on his cards and you can hear Randy in the background going, "It's a bus." This is funny to me every time. But no, he is just great as a foil for Clark in those first few scenes where he's losing all that money. Um, yeah. The one scene where Clark is waiting and he's getting all the money out of the ATM and it's pouring into his hand and it's got I think it's Smoke on the Water playing.
I think so.
He's like he's counting up his money and waiting and he finally has to stand off with the guy and it's like, oh man, this is the one. This is when Clark's gonna start winning his money back and then then it cuts back to him and he's muttering under the breath and he's like, "What'd you say?" "Blackjack."
Yeah, and he goes, ah, yeah, he's laughing. Oh my god,
It's so funny.
oh, it's freaking great, dude. Yeah, my only complaint is he had great scenes. For me, the writing part of it, I don't know why I have such an issue with weird stuff, but like, I'm just thinking the guy's so funny. But no, if that's the only complaint I got, it's not major. He's still good.
Yeah, I don't know. He's just a perfect foil for Clark in those scenes where he's beating him at blackjack. He's just so. It's just like if you've ever been to Vegas and you've gone against like it always feels like if you're up on a table, the pit boss will come in and tap somebody on the shoulder, and then all of a sudden you get this new dealer and you just start losing. This has happened to me more than once in Vegas where I win a few hands and I'm like, yeah, we're doing good. Then all of a sudden here comes that next dealer and he flips over 2 aces. It's like, okay, all right, well, I guess we're done. And no, so that is a perfect personification of that part of Vegas of like, I don't care how well you're up. There'll be that one dealer that comes in that has your number. Every time you got a good hand, he's got an even better hand. And so I thought that using him in that role was great. And just the fact that he was just so enthusiastic about beating Clark every chance he got, that it should be kind of one of those things where like, no, you got a job to do. Why are you enjoying taking my money so much? But again, it's just such a great personification of Vegas, man.
I mean, like you said, it's perfect. Yeah, when he takes the place of the other, he's following a winning streak and she walks away, which I'm sure once bets are played, you can't just change the dealer. But for comic effect, they had to do it.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I've seen this happen before. At
Really?
tables where you're winning and all of a sudden there's another. They do the same thing. They put their hands together and they go, "Well, good luck, everybody," and walks away. It was just
Wow,
just so great. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I just thought he was the perfect face of that phrase for Vegas of the house always wins.
Let's talk about the other set of kids. We'll get to the third kid in a second. Juliette Brewer as cousin Ruby Sue, previously portrayed by Ellen Hamilton Ladson, I guess in Christmas Vacation. Zach Moyes as cousin Denny, the son of Eddie and Catherine. And I don't know where he came from because evidently he is not the same son from Christmas Vacation. Now, I don't really know what's going on here. And I'll have to look as far as the cast for Christmas Vacation here. Let's see. Yeah, I'm drawing Cody Berger as Rocky Johnson. So they had a son named Rocky Johnson. Small world, Rocky Johnson. Soul brother, Rocky Johnson. As Eddie and Catherine's son in Christmas Vacation. By the way, if your name's Cody Berger, that's a great freaking name. I'm just saying. Berger. And then suddenly in this movie, it's Denny. So it goes from Rocky to Denny with no explanation of what happened to the son. And then in this movie, Phil, we also get Vicky, who's back from the first movie and portrayed in the first film by Jane Krakowski, which I had totally forgot.
Yeah.
So portrayed by Shay Delin. So yeah. The kid situation is weird because again they keep the same parents.
So yeah, it's Miriam Flynn as Catherine, same Catherine from the series of films. So yeah, I forgot about the stripper daughter being in this movie till she showed up, and then like, you know, cousin Eddie's all proud of her and telling her to show him that move I taught you, you know. And of course she's dancing around the pole. And then when he goes to kiss her, he kisses her in the mouth, and you're like, dude, what's going on in this family, man? Like,
I think that's one of those things that if you've watched all the vacation movies, it is just such a good payoff of her being the kid from Christmas Vacation, and it's just like, of course, Eddie's daughter that was so innocent in that movie would turn out to be a little sleazy in this movie because everything about Eddie is a little bit
well, now
sleazy.
that's Ruby Sue. That's the other daughter. Ruby Sue is the other daughter. Yeah, this is
Oh,
the one from the original Vacation film that we didn't even see in Christmas Vacation.
that's
Isn't that
right.
crazy?
You're right. That's right. I was trying to remember because I'm like he has the daughter that's blind, but I keep thinking Christmas
Right.
Vacation. But that's right. She was on the original Vacation, but still, it's just that payoff of having the kid earlier in the movie that is like small, and that's what she grew up to be. Um, that scene is just so uncomfortable, but there's so many bits in it that are actually very funny as well. Clark crushing the can and it's like, don't look at your cousin that way, and it's like, okay.
uh yeah, it's funny, dude. As comic book nerds, we get hung up on continuity, and I'm trying to apply it to a decades old series of comedy films, which
Yeah, the timing of it is kind of weird because it would seem like she should be older by
yeah,
now,
yeah.
but who knows? I don't know. I could be wrong. Um, yeah, those scenes in the desert with Eddie and their family are just so funny to me, man.
It's it's kind of like, and I don't want to get off track. It's kind of like Happy Days, like the pilot episode. I think it was the pilot episode of Happy Days. There was a second brother. That Ron Howard had a brother
Huh.
in the show, and you never saw him again. Like they never even brought. I don't think they ever brought him back, and that kind of became a running joke for the show. Where's the other brother? Ha ha! And he was never there. So it's like I kind of hit that when I watched this movie again. But yeah, the stuff with the desert, and then of course later on when Cousin Eddie has a moment, and you can tell he has to slap himself in the head because he gets like mid thought, and you can tell he's stuck. Um, but we know he's got a plate in his head from Christmas Vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the way that Quaid plays those scenes where he gets a thought and he just kind of like wanders off, it just looks so believable. Just the way his eyes kind of glaze back into the back of his head, it's just so funny.
Oh, oh man. I don't know why I just thought of Iron Man 3, but when he asked Jarvis how he is, and he says, I'm fine, so except every now and then I'll say the wrong cranberry. Because he's trying to get his wiring still screwed up. I don't know. That just reminds me of Eddie.
Eddie.
Man.
Yeah. Oh man, that all of that stuff funny. Their visit to the Hoover Dam. Just...
I'm your damn tour guide. The dude playing that role, I'm telling you, it's so good because he seems like a real dude. It's so good. The kid in me laughed out loud when that happened again.
Yeah, I don't know. He just always finds a way to get into these idiotic situations, and he tries to solve it in his stupidest way, like trying to solve the leak with the gum.
Yeah,
Such a
God.
stupid thing to do.
And of course, the water's coming out perfectly out of the rock as if it's coming out of a hose in the wall, because it definitely is. I mean, you could tell. And then it's later on you'll hear a news report and said the Hoover Dam lost, what was it, 4 feet of water or something due to an unexplained leak or whatever. Like, it's a very quick news bite. Siegfried and Roy, freaking Phil in this movie. Hey, as Vegas stage acts go. And the best thing about that bit was that Clark disappeared for like a half hour. Oh,
Where's Clark? And then he comes back out with the rest of the Tigers.
oh,
I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be a children's cartoon for Siegfried and Roy. That's how popular
oh
they
my
got.
God. I had forgotten all about
Like
that.
they had their own Saturday morning cartoon.
I had totally forgotten about that, man. How in the world do you remember that?
I thought about it over the weekend when I was in Vegas because I saw a statue for Siegfried
Oh,
and
well, there
Roy,
you go.
and I immediately thought of the theme song for the Siegfried and Roy cartoon.
There you go. That's freaking crazy. I had totally forgotten about that.
Yeah. Which one of them passed away,
Oh man.
or did both of them pass away? No, they both did. I'm sorry, they both passed away.
Yeah. Crazy.
That's why the statue's out there. I'm sorry. But no, yeah, Siegfried and Roy used to be a huge thing in Vegas. I didn't realize. I'm now looking it up. I didn't realize they were that old when they passed away. They actually made it to quite a lot, quite an old age.
Really? How old?
Yeah, it says here Siegfried passed away in 2021. He was 81 years old. Roy passed away in 2020. He was 75.
Wow. One of them got attacked by a tiger, didn't they, during the show?
Yeah, I know that turned into like some serious injuries or something
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, I know that like their show weren't their. Well, I think their show was at the Mirage because I think that was the casino I was in front of that had the big bust of them.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I think the moral of the story here, kids, is all right. Look. There's two trains of thoughts here, folks. One train of thought is they don't belong on the stage, Tom. This is not what they're wild animals. Of course, this is going to happen. My answer to that is very simple. Number one, there's been circuses happening for years where there's been no events of any kind of attacks whatsoever. I'm sure the number of attacks are far outweighed by the number of non-attacks in the course in the history of the circus. I know now, Phil, there are no more animals at the circus. I'm sorry. I mean, obviously, I don't want any animals to be mistreated, of course, but no animals at the circus. That's no longer a circus, in my opinion. Now, another debate for another day.
Have a product or a service that you want to get out into the world? Always wanted to try your hand at podcasting but don't know where to start? We've got you covered. Pod for Hire is a podcast production company that offers turnkey services to fit your needs. We produce your show from start to finish, allowing you the valuable time you require to focus on your established clients as well as prospective clients. We pride ourselves on delivering a top-notch product that will set your business apart from the rest and give your company the exposure it deserves. For more information, give us a call at 1-828-800-9880 or email us at info@podforhire.com. Pod for Hire. We take the work out of podcasting.
The second part of this, Phil, is you could always make the debate, hey, look, these animals are safer here in captivity than they are in the wild because you're rolling the dice. Especially if they're being hunted for their pelts or for their skin or what have you. Like they're better here where they're protected. And at least we're taking care of them and feeding them and grooming them or whatever. I mean, I'm kind of torn on that, dude. Not to get all political on you, but do you have a take on that, just out of curiosity?
My main thought is that, tigers belong in the wild, and if you're gonna cage tigers, like you got to take what comes with caging a tiger, because tiger does not belong in a cage. And so, yeah, it's part of the act, and all that other stuff, but I don't care how friendly and how great the relationship becomes between, you and this tiger. It's still a tiger.
Sure.
A tiger is not meant to be in a cage roaming around with human beings. Eventually, he is going to attack. And that's just how I think about it. And that's why I would never want to be in that kind of act. You just never know.
And, that's kind of how Crocodile Hunter died too, kids. Don't forget that. I don't know. That's a different topic too, but like I don't know, you got a family, you're wrestling around with animals on live television or whatever. And yeah, this will be fine. This will be fine. Yeah, probably not. Not to make light of it there, Phil. I'm just saying, like you said, man, it sounds cruel, but mess with the bull, you can finish the rest. I mean, eventually something bad gonna happen. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's a tiger.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, that is the bulk of your cast. The one person that we didn't mention is the great, the legendary Sid Caesar. I don't know. When we go back to the history of television, we talk about the biggest hits ever in the history of television, guys who laid the groundwork for what TV would become later, and for blazing a trail. I mean, dude, you have to say that Sid Caesar is one of those guys. that blazed a trail. I mean, dude, he is a career that went 60 years. Are you freaking kidding me? Again, try having a career in Hollywood that lasts more than 5. That's a victory in and of itself. But 60 years, dude. I mean, that's insane. He didn't have a very big part in this film. And again, Phil, he's one of those guys that when you see him, you're like, how do I know that guy? I know he's somebody. Um, what's your take on Sid Caesar in this very, very quick cameo toward the end of the film as Mr. Ellis?
So I didn't know that much about his history outside of this movie. But man, those scenes are so funny. He's like, he's got those mumbling scenes where he's trying to talk to him about how excited he is about winning, and then him having just this over the top, hammy deaf. It's just so funny. I got the money. I got the money.
The money is mine. Oh, it's so good. So good.
Man, the most over the top deaf, and like he's dying, and he's still just like, I got the money. I got it. Finally.
Oh, great stuff, man. Funny guy too. Kids, look up his archive, his history of work. I mean, very, very funny guy. I remember him from It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Such a great part in that movie. I mean, there's so much stuff he did over the years. So much hard to talk about all of it here. Silent movie. There's a lot of things that he did that really stand out to me. But yeah, it just bears repeating how great this guy was. But that essentially is your cast, kids, for this movie. Again, is it my favorite vacation film? No, but I mean, it's definitely got its moments. Dude, Troy and I talked about this in the vacation episode. And I want to get your take on it. What about this idea that Clark is like this good, wholesome family man? That's the thrust of the entire vacation series, that Clark is just a family guy, wants his kids next to him all the time. I mean, that's sort of the bulk of this. And of course, they're dysfunctional as can be. I don't recall a movie where they're this dysfunctional. Am I wrong? This seems to be the one that was kind of the tipping point.
I think the thing that, like I said, that just makes this so enjoyable is that he is like at his core, he's a family guy, and he believes in the family dynamic, and he truly loves his family. But I think there's just such an interesting dynamic of them getting to Vegas, and Vegas kind of corrupts all of them in a different way. And it kind of makes them dysfunctional. And it's not so much that they don't love each other, they don't like each other. It's just like they all go their separate ways and get just get into all these misadventures and just become selfish. Like, I want to go and do this on my own. I want to go do this, and it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm over here.
And then he lets them do it because he just wants to go gamble. That's all
Yeah.
he wants to do. I love, there's so many little bits in here that they repeat in other movies. Like every time Cousin Eddie goes to give Ellen a hug and kiss her on the cheek, she always backs up from him, like every time.
Yeah, that running gag is still very funny. Yeah, there's just so many bits. I mean, if you just follow the bit all the way from I think that's the first vacation. Like, and I think that's what makes the scene so funny when she's attempting to get him to come to bed, and he's like trying to learn how to count cards.
Right.
Yeah, just, man, there's so many great things. The fact that they have connecting rooms, and he won't just let the kids have their own room.
Yeah, she has to call him on the phone. They're like, we're right here. Why are you calling the room? Just come across the room and talk to us.
Yeah, yeah, and I do think that there's a very cool thing of watching their kids grow up and be like, Dad, we just want to be off on our own. We're older now. We can do our own thing. And he's just like, no, stay with me. But at the same time, he wants to, be hanging around a casino gambling.
Right. We haven't spent near enough time on Nick Papagiorgio, man. Like, you can't rewind the clock and turn Nathan Embry younger, but man, now I really wanted a Nick Papagiorgio spinoff film, like badly.
I just think everything about the Papagiorgio scenes are the highlight of this movie. They are just so funny. Just him first getting the ID and him getting kicked out of that casino and him coming back and he's like, "Oh yeah." And he gets ready to walk away and the guy's like, "I'm not done with you." And he puts the thing up and he makes him hold the
Yeah.
he makes him hold the picture of an ID up and he takes it. And somehow that works. He's going around and using this fake ID. The thing isn't even laminated. No, how this works. But it does. It's hilarious. Yeah, just him initially winning money and him learning how to gamble and or him winning all the cars. Just hilarious, man. The suit he wears once he fully transforms into the Papa Giorgio character, hilarious. It's like I said, him sitting in that tub with the women in his speedos. Am I right? Am I right? Hilarious.
I kind of hate when they blew his cover. That kind of ruined it. I kind of wish the movie would have went on and then he just met back up with them and they didn't blow his cover and he just walked away from all of it. That to me would have been funnier.
Yeah, he gets the hotel security is in there and they're like, "We're looking for an underage kid named Papa Giorgio." He's like, "Yeah, he's over there. He took my wallet."
And like when the main guy who had they gave him the suite and they were catering to his every whim and need, when he finds out he's underage, he gets this look on his face like, "Oh man, I'm screwed." Like he's not mad, he's upset with himself that he fell for it, which is great.
Yeah, it's just, oh man, the Papa Giorgio stuff is hilarious, man.
That's going to become my FBI code name, I think.
Nick Papa Giorgio.
Yes.
Yeah, the guys that he's hanging out with, and he's like, "Man, we got to get this guy a massage. He's tense."
Yeah, and they all loved him. That was the best part for me too. I love the idea of a film where there's a guy, like the main character, that he's not who everyone thinks he is, but you really like the character, and it just ends up working out. But most of the time, it never works out. Even in a comedy, you're like, just let the guy have a happy ending. But most of the time it'll be, nah, they find him out. He kind of gets a sweet ending, but he's still not, on top of the world. But I kind of wanted it for him here. So
yeah, this whole thing felt like a kooky version of Frank Abagnale Jr. in Catch Me If You Can. And him just going and scamming and having all these misadventures. Like this just kind of felt like Russ having his like own side adventure where he was like this Frank Abagnale-esque character. And I tell you, every time I watch this movie, that is my favorite part of the movie. Is all of the Papa Giorgio stuff.
The bit where I'm just throwing bits at you now. The bit where Cousin Eddie meets Wayne Newton at the table. And he said, "Do you have a bodyguard? I'd die for you." And then Wayne Newton very slowly looks at the camera. And then at the last minute, Quaid pats his hair. And I'm thinking, that was improvised. There's no way that was in the script.
Had to be. Wayne Newton. But I mean, again, I'm telling you, they picked up everything perfectly from the scene of being in Vegas. Just the fact that he's walking around with that tall drink in the plastic and he's just drinking it like it. There's so many people when you walk around the strip that have these super long drinks, the daiquiris or frozen drinks in these things. And he's just walking around in the casino with Clark with this thing. He's drinking it out of the straw. So funny.
That's great. Yeah, he's such he's so embarrassing. Like, dude, there's moments that character has in this series where you almost want to turn away because it's just a movie, but he's so embarrassing. Like, you kind of feel for the other characters who are not like that because you're like, man, I know what this feels like. I know what it's like to get embarrassed.
The buffet scene. The buffet scene is so funny. Wait a minute, Clark. We only need one plate.
He pulls the bag out, starts shoving food in it. God bless.
Some of that stuff is just disgusting. And again, that is the Vegas scene in Vegas where you can get a steak for $1.99. I don't want to know what a $1.99 steak is made of, but it's definitely not beef.
Of course. Of course.
And so, yeah, he's like walking around and he's like, "Blue, that's beef." He's like, "Oh yeah," and he switches the sign.
And it's utterly disgusting. Just the plates, like the tags identifying the food, are disgusting.
It's disgusting. Yeah, Eddie comes in. Yeah, I'll take a little bit of the yellow.
And don't be cheap with it. Something like that.
Or, man, that bread pudding is extra runny tonight.
My God, did you see how gross that stuff was? Jesus. Ooh.
And Clark is having this serious conversation about him of how he's lost all his money and he's in trouble, and Eddie's got like all this disgusting food just hanging off his face, and he's like, "You got a little bit," and he's like, "Did I get it? Yeah, sure you got it."
And Ellen was talking about her earlier, Beverly D'Angelo. Let's be honest, she could fill out a nightgown. I'm just saying, quite nicely. In fact, I just felt the need to go on the record to say that. Just saying.
That whole scene where he beats back up with them after they've been on their own vacation. Yeah. I mean, and she's wearing the Wally, well, not the Wally World, but the Wayne dress with like the cowboy hat with it and everything. And he's like trying to cover up her cleavage with his hands.
You know what's funny? Did it feel like there was a scene missing before that happened? Well, maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed like the scene before that, she wasn't like insanely happy to be around Wayne. He was kind of creeping her out a little bit. And then that scene, she's got his name on her dress. It's obvious she's hung out with him that day. It almost felt like there was a scene that we had missed somewhere.
Yeah, I think that she just was having fun being with somebody that, was paying attention to her. Because I think the thing we're supposed to take from it is that Clark was not paying attention to her at all. He was just like off doing his own thing. But yeah, that is one of my favorite Ellen scenes in the movie where he's just like, well, we can find something to do together. And she hits him with the, well, you wait a minute there, bucko.
Oh, that's good.
Come on, kids.
Man, I don't know. It's just, it's such a fun little world to step back into. I do wish this movie had been, I don't know, I was going to say better. That's all subjective, right? I do wish it had been a little bit more of a hit because I did enjoy it on watching it again. Again, it's not my favorite, but
it's such a stupid movie, but it is very enjoyable.
Yeah.
There's just so many things that should not be funny. Like, again, when Ellen calls him out and walks away, and he's like, "I've got plenty of things to do in this town without money," and he pulls his pocket out and like some change rolls out, and then he tries to kick it.
Right. God, no. Yeah, I mean, it's I guess gags. There's just a lot of good gags in this movie. Oh, and to go back to an earlier question, this is not my favorite Audrey. She's okay, not my favorite. I think Juliette Lewis is my favorite.
Yeah, I can probably agree with that. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's Juliette Lewis. But yeah, I think Aubrey's storyline is in this movie isn't as funny as anybody else's. But there are great parts of it,
mm-hmm.
like just her in that shopping, and she's like, get her something in the heel, and she's just all of that stuff is funny. Or whatever, when they're hanging out and they've got the guys that are like, I guess, Beatles impersonators with them.
Oh my God, yeah. Where was Ringo, by the way?
Yeah, all of that stuff. There's so much randomness to those scenes but again, it just feels like Vegas. Like you could just run into like just random Elvis impersonators just walking the streets.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I missed Ringo. I figured that was John, Paul, and George, but I have no idea where Ringo was. So
yeah, I like that, her cousin just kind of represents the seedy side of Vegas in the sense that, Eddie's family lives there and he's still living like a trailer park guy. And in the meantime, she's like actually in the city and she has probably seen all kinds of craziness.
Right.
Which, by the way, when she comes home and she's screaming at them, like, "I'm sick of this. I want something better." And then she notices they're there and he's like, "Oh, hey." Just like that change is so funny.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's some good moments in here. I don't think it deserves half the crap it gets. I do like the bit where she goes to see Wayne Newton in his house and he shows up in a gi. Like he's got the headband, like he's doing karate or judo behind the scenes. And of course, it's an American flag he's wearing. Like, please tell me this came from his own wardrobe.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man. There's just so much outlandishness of this movie that are funny. Um, the gag, the Mile High Club gag is
Yeah.
stupid. But it does lead to the funny joke of him getting to the hotel and the woman behind the desk going, "What happened to your hand?" He goes, "Oh, my pen burst."
Right. It's a birthmark. Because he tells somebody it's a
It's a
birthmark. Yeah.
birthmark.
uh, so, all right, before we wrap this up, we know that the remake, we both agree, was hot garbage, not good. Cast was fine, but just the story was horrible. Jokes are lame, not working. I'm not asking you to recast the whole film here, Phil. But let's say they wanted to continue this franchise and they were going to commit to it this time. Hey, kids, we've got 3 movies on the books. We're going to press forward. We want this thing to be a smash, be the funniest films you've ever seen. If you had to cast, let's just leave it just to Clark. Well, all right. So forget that. Let's leave it to Clark and Ellen. Who would you cast as Clark and Ellen?
I just don't think you can do it without Clark, man. I think that's part of the problem with the reboot is they're trying to follow another family, and it a great amount of the appeal of vacation movies is Clark. I just don't think you can do it without him, and I think it's so hard to recast Clark that it's just like, well, why even do it? And man, I just sat here and said we had 4 Rusties, but there's 5 counting the adult Rusty from the vacation reboot.
Oh, that's right. Wow. Jeez, that's right. Yeah, Ed Helms.
And yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I don't have a problem with Ed Helms. Christina Applegate is great. She's a great. I mean, you talking about legendary, has been a part of so many things comedic on television and movies. She's great, but I just don't think that cast and like the stuff in that movie ever clicked as a good movie.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, and this may never come to pass, but dude, I'll be honest with you, Phil, the way they like to reboot franchises and get things going, and like I said at the beginning of the show, a series of movies, a set of movies, a franchise, they could, if Ethan Embry was up for it. I mean, either he's Rusty or maybe he's Clark. And dude, I think I'd be perfectly fine with that. I think they could pull it off if it was him. In the hands of somebody else, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Ethan Embry is good as Rusty in a new franchise, but I don't think that he holds the kind of star power that would get any company to get behind it and go, okay, we've got to have him as our leading man. Like, I just don't think that sells that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point. You might be right. Yeah, I don't want to go without leaving out any good gags. We've hit on quite a bit here that happens. But yeah, it's, again, good flick. I don't know if I'd call it a great flick. I've seen it so many times through the years. It's one of those movies, sometimes I get stuck on a film and I'll watch it multiple times during the course of a week for no good reason other than I just get stuck on it. And I got stuck on this film once upon a time. And dude, I watched it for like a month straight. It was crazy.
Yeah, it is definitely a guilty pleasure movie for me. I've watched it a ton of times, to the point where there's certain scenes that I can repeat it verbatim. I'm sorry. It's just one of those movies where in the back of your head, you know it's not a good movie, but it is just so funny.
Yeah, same here. I've got favorites that other people don't love. The Expendables are still a favorite, a guilty pleasure of mine, and those movies are probably, well, not probably, they'll never win anything. But I'm a fan. I can't help it. I don't know why I am, because there's a lot of nonsense and ridiculousness in those movies, but I just can't help it. There's just part of me is just attaches to it for whatever reason. So maybe Vegas Vacation is like that too. I don't know. Do you continue this or do you just let it stop? All right, forget it. You don't want to recast it? Fine. Don't play along. Are you the executive that says, look, let's just leave it alone. We're pulling the plug. Or do you try? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's done. I think Chevy Chase is too old.
Yeah.
I think that Beverly D'Angelo and the role that she was playing specifically in this movie, she's too old for it. Yeah, I just think it's time to let it go. We got 4 or 5 movies out of it. Yeah, it's enough. You can let it go.
Wow. So hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
Yeah, I guess that would be the end of that. I mean, I'm with you. I don't know how you. I mean, unless you younged them up CG style, I guess, which would be in a very expensive movie to be a comedy. I don't think that's feasible financially.
Yeah, yeah. Because if I remember right, this is so technically, uh, this is the sequel to Christmas Vacation because I believe that it goes vacation, then European vacation, then Christmas vacation, then Vegas vacation, right?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah. And man, the time period between Christmas vacation and Vegas vacation is what, like 10 years or
Mm-hmm.
something like
Yeah.
that? Because yeah, Christmas vacation was like late 80s and Vegas vacation was late 90s.
97.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember a specific year for Christmas vacation. I think it was 88, something
Christmas
like that.
was 89.
Okay, I was close. So yeah, almost 10 years. Like it's like, yeah, when it takes you that long to get a sequel, like that might be telling you something.
Yeah. That's a good point, man. Very good point. Well, kids, I think that's probably going to do it for Vegas Vacation. Again, not under any illusion here that this is a widely loved, beloved, and widely held classic. Every film has its fans. And here on the 6M, we celebrate stuff that we like, not just stuff that shatters box office records and makes a ton of money, which we've done that. We'll continue to do that because a lot of that stuff is actually really good. But we'll also hit on personal favorites. So that's what we did here today. So, Phil, let's take this home, my friend. Give me your last word on Vegas Vacation.
I don't know. Like I said, it's still a guilty pleasure for me. I think this is the only the only vacation movie that didn't have writing credits from John Hughes. And again, that might be part of why some people might not have enjoyed it as much. Because I mean, those initial movies that John Hughes had his hand in are classics. And I wouldn't necessarily call Vegas Vacation a classic, but as I've stated many times in this episode, it is definitely a guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Yeah, it's kids. If you've never seen it, for God's sake, watch it. Don't just hate something because you hear it's not good. That's kind of dumb. Just go watch it. Give it a chance. It is on the Netflix as we speak, as of this recording. If you haven't seen it in a while but enjoyed it, go back and watch it. I think you'll still get something out of it. And to Phil's point, it's probably done. Do I want to see it come back? I'll differ from Phil here. With the right cast, I think it could work. No, it will never be the same. No, it will never have the same charm. Could it work again? I don't know. I have no idea. I'd be interested to see. Vince Vaughn as Clark Griswold. It's different, right? He's more straight laced, but he's funny. I don't know. I don't know if dim-witted is part of his repertoire or not. Not that we've really seen. So maybe not, but I don't know. I think there's possibility. But if that reboot was the one and only, yikes. Not enjoyable.
Yeah, that reboot was not good.
Not good. Not pleasurable at all. There you have it, kids. We'll see what the future holds. But if all you've got are these movies, hey, enjoy them, rewatch them, love them all over again. Because that's what we're going to do. And that is Vegas Vacation.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show. Check out our social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at 6M Podcast. We'll see you next time.